Can you hear me?
Testing. Yes. Oh, you sound so good. April's got a new microphone. No,
Ooh,
not a new
ooh.
microphone. A new stand. That's the only thing that's different, right?
I can go this way, that way. Yeah, and this cushion.
Yeah. And when you do that, I don't hear anything. No sound. Nope.
What?
So that's what that does.
That's what that does.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to get me one of those. Okay,
You
got it.
can't you can't hear the violence from the other side. Oh,
Can I tell you another update about aging?
sure.
I've been noticing that my hairline is receding.
Do you want me
Right?
to
Not right here though. Not right in the front. It's right here. These
really?
corners are going back. And I'm like, shh, don't.
Do you pull your hair up a lot?
Yeah,
That's probably why.
that's what I was thinking too. But I'm like, does it look so weird if I pull like hair down like that? Does
No,
it
I
look weird
think
to kind of cover up the baldness?
no.
You see that though?
I do see it now that you pointed it out, but I probably wouldn't have noticed it.
I think I noticed it since my hair has been darker.
I think that you could probably tell more than I
Like
probably
look,
look, I probably have the same thing and I don't even know.
look how far back
Wow.
that goes. Very thin right there.
I bet it's just with your hair being back. It's
Okay.
fine. Don't
It's
worry. Don't
fine.
worry.
Okay. Okay, okay.
Anyways, what's new with you?
You guys, I had like the butterflies just like thinking about it. It's not
What?
even
What?
real yet.
Let's hear
I
it.
have a job. Ah!
Woo!
It's crazy. It's happened so fast. Like, here's what happened. We recorded a Bring Your Own Booze episode with Whitney, which that'll be
Yes.
coming out soon. Just wait.
When we can get things to work.
Right. Um, anyway, that happened Saturday, and we talked about like you should really like look at private practices, and I'm like, yeah. And so I Sunday, the next day, I get on Indeed, and I'm just like, okay, let's just look. And I really did just like focus on not like the big hospitals, like the big name places, you know.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, this one clinic comes up, but I'm not going to say the name because privacy. But anyway, came up and they're like, we need an x-ray tech. And like, and it said, limited license is okay. And I'm like, thank God. So I applied Sunday night. And then I think it was Monday morning, they messaged me. They're like, you see that you're in Tooele. Um, are you okay to make the drive? Because it's gonna be like an almost hour drive. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I can make that drive. And they're like, well, we do have a clinic in Tooele too. And I'm like, yeah, I can do it. And then they're like, okay, great. We want you to come in for an interview. When can you come in? I said, any day this week after 3. And they're like, how about Wednesday at 4? I said, perfect. So, guys, I show up at 4 o'clock. I get in there. I pee first because, nerves.
Nerves. Yeah.
So I pee
Always
first.
with the nervous peas.
I
Yeah.
know. And you know what's funny is I had my resume in my hand, but like no folder or anything. So like I had to be creative, like where to put it while I went to the bathroom. Anyway, I'm just like walking through everything. Then, then so they wanted to be sanitary. I'm like, what if like water drops gets on this and like they walk out of the bathroom with it?
And they're like, what is the substance on this?
It got wrinkly anyway, but whatever. So I go in and I sit down. I tell them, I'm here for an interview. I sit down. A guy comes out. He's kind of older, like our dad's age, like maybe 60s ish.
Hmm.
And really nice guy, kind of old. And he was like, let me give you a tour. And I'm like, okay, cool. And like he kept using like verbiage like, this is where you're gonna work. This is like your exam, like your x-ray
It
equipment.
wasn't like an if, it was like a when.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I was just like, oh my gosh. So he's like, I'm just trying to find an empty room that we can talk in, but he's like giving me a tour as he's trying to find a room to sit in. He's like, oh, here's one. Sit down.
Were
He
you
doesn't
in
even
an
close the
exam
door.
room?
No, it was like a conference room.
Oh, okay.
I think he was trying to find an exam room but couldn't find one. So he was like,
Oh,
let's just go in here. But it was like unfinished because he's like, we're trying to expand our clinic right now. So like things are just kind of
crazy.
places. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like his first option, I don't think. But anyway, so we get into this room and I was like, hey, I'm sorry I don't have a folder, but here's my paper or here's my resume. It's kind of wrinkled. Sorry. And he was like, oh, it's okay. I already have a copy, but he puts it with his papers anyway. Sit down. And then he was like, so what are you looking for? And I'm like, a job. Not really. I was just like, an x-ray job. And he was like, well, I need an x-ray tech. And I literally said, well, that's good because I'm an x-ray tech. And he's like, that is good. And then he was like, so, he just outlined the job, like not the job, but like the hours that I would work, the full time, the drive. He's like, we can definitely get you out in Twilla eventually. I just need you here right now. He asked me how much I wanted to make. And then right when I told him the number, he just stuck out his hand like this and said, you got a deal. And I was like, seriously?
It
And
was
then just like that. He's like, seriously? And he was like, yeah. I'm like, okay. So I shook his hand. I'm like, wow, that's so awesome. Thank you. Wow, okay. And he was like, do you need benefits? And I'm like, yeah. And then he was like, well, we got healthcare, we got dental, we got 401k. It's like, we got PTO, but we don't give that to x-ray techs. And I was just like, ha. And he was just like, just kidding. It was really cute. We bonded in a minute. And then
really comfortable and quick. Yeah.
so quick. Then he was like, well, let's go meet some people. And I'm just like, yeah. First person we run into is Dr. Name of the clinic.
Yeah.
And he was like, this is Dr. So-and-so. And I'm just like, oh, hello, I'm Katie. And I said, and he's like, I'm Dr. So-and-so. And I'm like, yeah, your name's on the building. And he's like, yeah. He was like, yeah, and my wife's. And I'm like, yes. Yeah. And he was like, you'll meet her too. I'm like, oh. So then we talked for a bit and he's like, well, welcome. And I'm like, thanks. And then we walked over and I met the x-ray tech that I'll be working with. Her name's Melanie. She's really nice. She says she's as old as my grandma, but I didn't believe her. So I'm gonna have to find out how old she is.
My absolute favorite thing is that you're like, your name's on the building. Like,
oh my gosh.
Wow. What an honor to meet you.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what part of me came out there, but I was like a proud child. I don't know.
Yeah. You're like, wow, this is great.
Yeah.
It's like meeting a celebrity. Wow.
Like I'm in your presence. Yeah.
And you start
Tomorrow, you guys. That's the thing, is this happened yesterday on a Wednesday.
and you start Friday.
Then I start Friday tomorrow.
That is baloney. That's
Isn't
so
that
crazy.
8:30 a.m. And then I'm full time after that. And I like have like the nervousness because I'm like, I haven't been full time since
I bet it's gonna go so fast. Like, I bet your day goes so fast.
I hope it does. I hope it's not one of those days where I'm like, get me out of here. Like, this is so bad. It won't be. It won't be, right?
It'll be so fast. Because like
Okay.
you're gonna get to know your coworkers and then you're gonna, be trained, and then it's all gonna go so quick. And I think it'll be so nice. I think it'll be a breath of fresh air for sure.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Though I have to say, side note, aren't you glad we don't do weekly episodes? We'd be freaking screwed.
We would be. We would be like, well, what are we gonna do now? Double the work?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
So we've set this up to where like our lives can change a little, and
yeah,
okay.
And we can move around it.
Yeah.
Sort of. I mean, things
Sort of.
happen.
We have really screwed the pooch recently. Yeah.
Yeah.
On
Well, even like
ourselves and
even just me getting this job, like the last 2 days, like I was on track for my notes to be done. I'm like, yeah, I'm good to go. And like I didn't expect to get the job.
yeah.
So like when I got it, like it just changed my whole day yesterday.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, I couldn't even think about anything but that whole thing. And
Yeah.
guys, listen to this. I calmly walk myself out of the office. I'm like, bye everybody, see you Friday. And I leave. And then like I calmly press the elevator button. I hop into the elevator box and then the door closes. I get on my phone and I'm like, Ava got the job. I sent a message on Marco Polo, the app. And
She sent me a Marco Polo and it was like, she's like, I'm in the elevator, but I got the job.
I like couldn't even believe it. Especially like just and it was 4:15 when I left. So 15 minutes from when I walked in and walked out. Well, bam.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's
I
gonna be
just can't
great.
believe it. I
And we can't wait to hear how your first day goes, how your first
Mhm.
week goes.
I feel like I'm starting school again. It's like, should I get a new outfit? I did get a new outfit today. I got new scrubs.
Oh, good. Are they
Not
cute?
new, but yeah, the pants are cute. The top, it was just the only one in my size that was good
Oh,
fabric. I was being picky about the fabric because anybody who's a medical person listening knows the fabric of your scrubs matters.
that's so exciting. Congratulations. We are stoked for you. And
Yeah. And guys, I've been a stay-at-home mom now for a year and a half. It's been great. It's been wonderful. Loved it. I'm ready to get back out there. And I have to just mention that Mitch gets to stay home with the kids and how
yeah,
exciting that is for him. So,
he's going to be able to
anyway,
breathe a little and have a
yeah,
normal sleep schedule.
yeah, because he's been working nights and having his schedule all weird. So,
Yeah,
yeah, we're excited.
it's going to be exciting for both of you. And I can't wait to hear how it goes. It's going to be amazing.
Yes.
Just good things all around.
Anything new with you?
No. No. I mean, is there anything new with me?
How's your business going? We haven't talked about that on the pod for a long time.
It's okay. It's slow. It's always slow before or after Christmas. I did change my name, my
I saw
business
that.
name. It went from Dahlia Boutique, which I love dahlia flowers, but like it just was too cliche for me to have like a flower. I
Mm.
don't know why. It just didn't feel right. And so like me and Josh were talking about it over the last year about like
Yeah, I know it's been
names.
a long time that you've been
Yeah.
brainstorming.
And it might sound stupid to most people, and I don't care because it just fits me and I like it and it's just how I am. But it's Basic Bee Boutique.
Mm-hmm.
And so Josh always calls me a basic bitch for my iced coffee, for my love for Target, for
Mm-hmm.
the crafts I like to do, for the things I create. It's all just basic girly stuff.
You definitely
Um
like the in trend things.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
change my style all the time, but usually it's kind of within all the stuff that's in front of my face, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Like you
Um,
go with what's at
yeah,
like what you see. So
right. But then I also have like things that isn't the norm.
yeah.
Like I don't know. It anyway, but I'm just one of those basic bitches that I like all the things that basic bitches like. So, and then Bennett is my last name, and it might sound stupid, but I love the letter B. I don't know why. I love it. So, like, I was just doodling one time and I was just like writing big B's, and I don't have good calligraphy skills at all, but I was like, and then Josh was just calling me a basic bitch the other day, and I was like, oh, what if I did basic B and B for Bennett? And it's a play on basic bitch, but like it's
Yeah.
most people can understand that feeling of liking the things that are out there, the things that
in
are
trend.
in trend.
Or,
So,
yeah.
And I'm working on like being a little bit more like I like all the seasonal stuff, which is a basic big bitch thing. So I'm trying to be ahead of the game, which I haven't been super good at because I get in my head. And that's, I think, my biggest fault with anything that has to do with either the podcast or with my business or with trying to find a job or whatever it is. I get in my head that I'm like I self-sabotage so much. And it's ridiculous and it's stupid because I know I can do things and I know I'm smart and I'm able, but like it's like there's a short in my brain when I'm like trying to do something, but then I end up completely like tearing it apart myself before anyone else has the chance to tear it apart. So
Right.
it's one of those things where I'm like really glad I'm not trying to be like on social media all the time because I know it would tear me apart if people were like super critical of me, because
I see what you're saying.
Josh is like, you haven't been bullied enough because you are sensitive. And I was like, I don't think that's a thing.
Well, I would say that you don't. Here's my analysis, okay?
Okay, analyze me because
Okay.
I need to stop doing
I
it.
I think that as long as I've known you,
Hmm.
wow.
29 years. Whoa.
Big statement here.
Yeah.
You won't put yourself in a position that you feel is going to jeopardize what you have.
Yeah.
Like not necessarily afraid of failure. It's just like you're like, well, why would I do I
I
don't know how to
don't
word it.
like I don't take risks if I feel like there's a possibility of losing my comfort.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like I'm not an all in all the time with everything. Like I don't know how to explain it. Like
Mm-hmm.
if I feel comfortable with what I'm doing, I have a hard time breaking that comfort to expand.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
don't know why that is. It's just how
Mm-hmm.
I've always been, but I'm okay with comfort, but like I know I can do more, but I'm like, but what if I can't? So I'm going to
Yeah.
stay where I know I can do
Like
it.
I'm good here.
I'm already proven that I can do this. So like
Right.
let's just stay there.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe that's
yeah.
why you can't swim.
Oh my gosh. That's why I will die in deep water one day. That's how
You're
I'm
like, why
gonna
would I go over there
go. I
and
already know I
risk
can touch,
drowning?
yeah, I can touch the bottom here. So if I touch the bottom there, I die. If I touch the bottom here, I'm safe. So, so this is where I stay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
Anyways,
think that's the answer. That's the answer
yeah.
I'm going with anyway.
Well,
You
anyhow,
gotta swim in the deep end sometimes.
but then I'll drown. See, yeah, that's the thing. Like I will fail. I'm scared of failure. That's what it is.
It's a gentle way of saying you're afraid of failure.
I'm gonna die.
Okay. Well, people
uh,
listening are like, okay, girls, you got there.
yeah, they were like there 5 minutes ago, and it took us a minute. Okay. Should I tell a story?
Mm,
No.
is that it? Is that all we have to talk about? I guess it is.
Yeah, it might be a short entrance, but the most exciting entrance I think we've had in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you know what? I'll warn you. I think my story might be long.
mine's
That's why
story.
my notes are taking a while.
That's okay, but that means
Okay.
we'll break it up, and then that way the editing won't be so overwhelming.
Much. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Have you heard of Provo Canyon School?
I know who you're gonna talk about.
Do
Oh,
you?
I'm so happy you've chosen to do this.
I know.
I okay.
As I was writing my notes, you shared something on social media, and I was like, damn it, she's gonna know what I'm doing. But
Oh, no, I had no idea, but now it's all coming together. April
yeah,
was like hinting at me like my story's so good, like but like this and that, like just like not what it is, but like what it involves. I'm just like, who are you talking about? And she's like, oh, you're gonna know like right away. And I'm like, but
hint,
you
hint,
mentioned Provo.
hint. That's hot. Do you know?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. So Provo Canyon School was founded in 1971 by Dr. Robert Christ and Jack Williams. It was initially a boys only school located in Provo, Utah. Just a few years after opening, 2 teen boys were sent to psychiatric treatment facility by their home state's juvenile justice system. So they're like court ordered to go to Provo Canyon School, right?
Okay.
One of the boys was from Alaska and the other boy was from Nevada. Not too long after they arrived, the 2 teens ran away. They filed a lawsuit against the original owners. They filed a lawsuit against the owners of Provo Canyon School. The lawsuit challenged the school's education, treatment, and confinement methods. Christ was a psychiatrist and was directly responsible for the medicating of children at the school. In the early years of, and I'm going to shorten it to PCS, so it's Provo Canyon School, because I'm going to say
Okay.
that a billion times. But in the early years of PCS, children were punished with methods such as hair dance, which is when the children were pulled around a room by their hair,
Oh my gosh.
solitary confinement, and forced to stand facing a wall for hours on end. After a lengthy trial in 1980, the jurors returned a verdict favorable to PCS. But so they didn't have any punishments by the law,
Mm-hmm.
but they were a federal judge issued a permanent injunction banning the school from using polygraph tests on the boys, opening their and reading their mail, using isolation for any reason other than to contain a boy who is violent, and prohibited physical force from being used to restrain a boy unless he was in immediate danger to himself or others. So they're like, okay, you're not in trouble by law, but you have to change these things, right?
Yeah, like you need to make sure that these are the new protocols.
Right. A few years later, in 1986, Charter Behavioral Health Systems bought the original Provo campus. They were once the nation's largest operator of psychiatric hospitals and treatment centers, and they owned the school for the following 14 years.
Hmm.
During that time in 1989, a 15-year-old boy named Jeremy Whiteley was a normal teen from Washington State. He described himself as going through a rebellious phase. And his parents and a therapist asked him if he'd like to try a boarding school in Utah where he could hike and ski and be outdoors. And he was like, oh, yeah, that sounds great. So he
Yeah.
went willingly, right? He's like, that sounds
Right.
really fun. So he said, quote, my dad took me, and basically after I said goodbye, that's when the nightmare started. It wasn't at all what it was described to be. Jeremy was expecting at least to be able to like play basketball or swim in a pool, be outside, but instead he was taken to a room, strip searched. He watched his classmates be held down by staff and injected with a sedative. During his
Oh
time
my
at the
gosh.
school, he quickly moved up levels of the program, but then continued to be knocked down. If he so from what I understand, you're in this program and you move up levels, and then if you are knocked down, you're added time to your sentence, basically. Like you're added time for your treatment. But
I see.
it's if you so they describe themselves as a school, but it's
Mm-hmm.
very much like a mental hospital prison. Like that's how they're treated, is like
Yeah.
it's not a school. And
Like they
they
done
have,
something wrong.
yeah, and the school is kind of like a mixture of kids with behavioral issues, actual criminal issues. Some kids who are just a part of the foster system, people who have actual like serious mental things. So they're mixed in with all these different like kids with different issues, and they're all
Right.
treated the same. Like
Oh my gosh.
all
That
in the
sounds
same
like
seriousness.
that just sounds like hell.
Right.
That's
So one
awful.
at one point, Jeremy tried to run away during an approved visit to a family reunion. So he left the campus, went to a family reunion in New Hampshire, I think, and then tried to escape from there so they wouldn't send him back to Utah. But when he
Yeah.
got back and they knew that he tried to run away, his punishment was to stand up against a wall for hours for several weeks. So
Are
for
you
several weeks,
serious?
several hours a day, he had to stand and look at a wall. Um,
Wow.
he was prescribed so much medication that he felt like a zombie. He didn't leave PCS until 2 years later when his parents pulled him out. Jeremy is now 46 years old, and he said it was basically 2 years of prison. So Provo Canyon School eventually expanded to open a girls program in Orem, Utah, but later the Orem campus moved to Springville. Charter behavioral health systems was under intense scrutiny in the 90s, facing allegations of Medicaid fraud and media reports of inappropriate treatment and inadequate care at all their facilities across the country. So Charter Behavioral Health Systems filed bankruptcy in 2000. So they had to sell a bunch of their properties, and one of those properties was Provo Canyon School. So they sold PCS to a company called Universal Health Systems. Sorry,
Okay.
Universal Health Services.
Oh. Okay.
PCS is now being marketed as a residential treatment center for children between the ages of 8 and 18. So I think you just age out eventually.
Okay.
Um,
Because you're like an adult.
right. Even after ownership changes to Universal Health Services, the abuse and mistreatment of teens at Provo Canyon School didn't end. Because the owners might have changed, but they kept the staff pretty much the same, right?
I see. Right.
So here are a few stories of things that had happened even after the ownership changed. In 2002, a girl named Lee Goldman was sent to PCS by her parents because she was showing rebellious behavior and her parents thought that it would help her, right? When
Okay.
she arrived, she was taken to a room with a bunch of staff and was ordered to remove her clothes. She experienced days where she would just sit in their observation room for days on end, right? Their observation room was solitary confinement. It was like a brick hexagon shape room
Yeah.
with cinder block walls, cement floor, and a drain.
I just want to know why they're being treated like prisoners. Because, like, okay, their parents are like, we think that this will help you. You should go there. It's like, okay. But, like, is
Well,
that
because
it?
it's being
You know?
marketed as something that's so helpful for their mental health. And then they're, being their parents don't know that they're being treated this way, I should say.
Oh,
Their
okay.
parents have no idea.
That's crazy.
Oh yeah, and it gets worse. Like it's just bad. So this observation room is just this cement room, right? Where and you're gonna see a bunch of people have the same experience of being in this solitary or isolation where they're there for days and they have to pee in this drain. They have to shit in this drain. They
Oh my
don't have a bed
gosh.
and they aren't wearing clothes. So they're freezing. Like
So they're being treated like seriously Lannister before she gets shamed through the streets.
yeah, they're literally teens, like young teens to 16, 17, and they're being
Yeah.
treated like that. It's blowing my
Yeah.
mind.
Like, and I just don't understand, like, at what point is somebody going to step in and be like, why?
Yeah, during
You
all
know?
of these stories, in my mind, I was like, how is there not one staff member that's shutting it down?
Right.
How's there
Or
not?
raising eyebrows, like, hey, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. Or like
Right,
anonymously reporting them to the police,
right.
Like,
Exactly. I am baffled at the amount of staff that have not reported this stuff. She said,
insane.
so Lee Goldman said that her most difficult memory was that she was subjected to shower checks for girls. The reasoning was that the staff said that they didn't know how to clean themselves correctly, so they would watch the girls shower until they were clean enough to their satisfaction. She was at PCS for almost 2 years, and she said, quote, "It's something that's affected me to this day. It makes you feel like you're nothing. It makes you feel like you're really low. There's nothing that I can really gain from exposing what happened to me other than just to feel better and to hopefully protect other children from going through this." Okay, so then in 2003, Kira Lewis was sent to Provo Canyon School from Alaska. Kara said she was held down once by a staffer who slammed her to the ground as she tried to climb a fence and run away.
Oh my
Small
gosh.
restraints happened all the time when Kara was there. Injections were common, and they even nicknamed it booty juice because they'd inject you in the butt.
What?
Yeah.
What was it?
It was hyperbol or it was schizophrenia type medication.
And everybody was getting the exact same
Whether or
thing.
not they had schizophrenia or not.
And what does it do?
It just sedates you.
Oh.
Like it makes you literally like a zombie.
What blows my mind is that the doctor prescribing this would have to document it, right? For
There's a
doctors.
lot that's not documented. They document the medications they give them daily, like their regular like pills, but
Mm-hmm.
they don't record
The
a
things they
lot of
did wrong.
right. They don't record a lot of the events, right?
Wow. And you know
Okay,
what's horrible is that in the healthcare world, or maybe other places too, like I've heard if you don't document it, then it didn't happen.
right. Exactly. Because then
So
it's like, well, it's not in our record, so it didn't happen.
yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah. So Kira still has lasting effects from her time at Provo Canyon School as well. She said, quote, "It scares me if someone yells at me. We have to find a way to change how we do mental health. Teenagers should not be drugged up and ignored. They're telling the truth and their perspective is real to them."
Mm-hmm.
Also in 2003, a woman named Jen Robinson was sent to PCS at 14 years old. She said her parents were told that she would be helped. She experienced being stripped down in a utility closet on her first day. Her head was shaved. The staff called her Auschwitz because of her appearance.
Are you kidding?
No, no. She said, quote, "I will always have nightmares, but I'm speaking out because my story is not unique. There are thousands of other people just like me with nightmares just like me. And there
That
are
is
thousands,
so messed up.
right. And there are thousands of children who are still at risk. If I stay quiet, nothing changes." This
Holy
whole thing is going
moly.
to make you so angry. I know it. Jen helped start a movement in 2016 called, quote, "Breaking Code Silence." So, code silence is a code that most facilities use for that they tell the kids that when it's code silence, you don't say a word. If you say a word, you're punished.
Oh.
So, this movement that the survivors are using is called Breaking Code Silence,
Okay.
where other abuse survivors of behavioral facilities across the nation can talk about their experiences. Jen said, quote, "For me, it's turning of the table. I refuse to be a victim. I want to be someone who can stand for others who have been victimized in their life." Um, so there's a site called bcsnetwork.org where you can share survivor stories if you've been to one of these facilities. You can also read about a lot of other survivors who share their stories,
Mm-hmm.
which I couldn't fit them all in this. So definitely check it out if you want to hear about it. And then in 2010, a girl named Kayla Smith was 8 years old when she was sent to Provo Canyon School in coordination with her California school district. She remembered being strip searched and touched by the staff. Her first
At
night,
8 years old.
8 years old, her first night she was homesick. Being 8, like my kid is 8. And of
Yeah.
course he would be upset and like sad, and he's far away
Like,
from
what's
home.
happening to me and why am I here?
Right. So she was upset, she was crying, and she was homesick, and the staff locked her in an isolation room, which it's against Utah regulatory rules that timeout rooms cannot be locked. They cannot be locked.
Wow. Yeah.
But they had a lock on the door and they locked her in at 8 years old.
That's traumatizing.
Right. And during her time there, she was frequently given shots that made her go to sleep, and they would sedate her if she cried, and especially when staff members held her down. Kayla said, quote, "It's traumatizing. It's very scary. Mostly it scares you more. You're already upset, and the environment is just making it worse for you."
Yeah.
Okay, so then in 2013, Provo Canyon School almost lost its license. It was on a conditional status after injuring a female student during a restraint. And then again in 2015, it almost lost its license again on a conditional status after two separate instances staff injured students while holding them in restraints.
Who is sending their kids to this school after Google reviews are a thing?
That does come up. Yes. I also mentioned that down here because I'm like, at the beginning, back in the 90s, I can
Yeah.
understand. But in the 2000s, it has like 2-star reviews.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is not good. It's damaged so many kids. And like they're speaking out about it. How are there in 2019,
Yeah.
2015, 2013, 2010? How are there kids in
Modern
these campus?
times, people.
I know. We have a way to freaking look these things up.
Like oh gosh, what?
I know.
Ugh.
Oh, and then in 2019, a public records request revealed 14-year-old foster child was injected 17 times and restrained over 30 times in a 3-month period.
Oh my goodness.
No 14-year-old needs to be injected and restrained that many times. There
No.
are other ways to deal with unruly children.
Oh yeah.
Okay. The current CEO of Provo Canyon School could not respond to the Salt Lake Tribune's questions of how often students are chemically restrained or whether efforts have been made to reduce student restraints. He noted in a statement that mental health treatment has evolved over the past 20 years from a behavioral-based foundation to a personalized trauma-informed approach. He said the facility does not use solitary confinement as a form of intervention and does not use drugs or medication as a disciplinary measure.
Liar.
Yeah, he said youths, which in my head I just hear
Schmidt.
freaking Schmidt. Youths. He said the youths they work with have complex needs and are often a danger to themselves or others. He said, quote, "We are concerned that the current media coverage may increase the stigma around seeking help for behavioral health concerns. This would be a disservice if it leads people away from seeking necessary care and increases the stigma around mental health that providers, organizations, advocates, and members of the public have worked so hard and made such progress over the years to break."
Oh my
which
gosh. What a
which
load of
there is
bullshit.
a stigma about getting help in general. There is. And it's starting to break down that more people are going to therapists and more people are getting psychological help, and medications are being, are not so like scary. And
Yeah.
if you go to the right doctor, but this is not about that. This is about
No.
the abuse of children in these facilities. If
Yeah.
they were doing what they said they were doing, there wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
But they're hiding that they're abusing these children. They're isolating them.
They're like,
They
we're not the problem here. We're
they're
not the problem.
right.
It's what you guys are making us look like is the problem.
Yeah.
It's like, no.
But then stop doing that is the whole thing.
Yeah. Like I
Like,
don't like that's like somebody like bullying you and
don't
then
call
you
me a bully.
yeah,
That makes
right.
me look like a bully if you call me a bully. Well, then stop bullying, you freaking
Exactly.
idiot.
That's what that is. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
And what year
So,
is this?
that was in 2019. Yeah. Not that long
So
ago.
freaking recent.
So, Utah's Office of Licensing, which provides oversight to youth residential treatment centers, has conducted 341 investigations in the past 5 years at Provo Canyon School's 4 campuses. In these cases, regulators substantiated 27 violations. Apparently, Salt Lake Tribune asked the Office of Licensing to release their investigation records and inspection reports, but the office said, if you give us 2K,
What?
they're like, because they need someone,
Like money talks?
one of their staff to like go and redact and read everything before it's released, so it would take too much for them to do it.
See.
So while Salt Lake Tribune continues to attempt to get a redacted copy of that report, the message is still the same, that Provo Canyon School has nearly lost its license several times for the treatment of their students and causing injury.
Yeah.
So as you may know, the one and only Paris Hilton released a documentary in 2020 called This Is Paris, where she hopes, like, her goal of it was to introduce the world to her as a businesswoman, as a successful person, as this, who she really is compared to the public's persona, or the public persona that people see her as.
Yeah.
It is, I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't.
But it is crazy because in my mind, before this story, in my mind, Paris Hilton was the baby voice. That's hot, that she always has these big sunglasses.
Like, you're making me sad on
Yeah,
David Letterman.
she's she's a Barbie doll basically, and the iconic dumb blonde that was in The Simple Life. So in my mind, that's who she was. And so like in my mind, I didn't take her that seriously. Like, to be honest, I didn't. But watching this documentary, you really do get to see who she is away from social media. And it is so weird. She has a normal voice. She is very intelligent. She works
well spoken.
Yeah, she works really hard for everything she has. Like, she has worked really hard, and she's earned what she has right now, but she kind of starts to talk about, like, she works really hard and she has horrible insomnia, but the cause of her insomnia is not just that she has a lot on her mind. It's because she has the same recurring nightmare every single night.
Really?
This nightmare is of two people coming into her room asking, "Do you want this to happen the easy way or the hard way?" Then she cries and screams and tries to get away from them. And that's her dream every night.
Gosh, that is so scary.
But that's because in her early teens, Paris moved to New York City with her family, and her mother was pushing her to be this polite socialite, right? But it didn't feel right to her. She wasn't who she wanted to be. So around 16, she got a fake ID. She began sneaking out and going to nightclubs and parties. She's like, and she said in her documentary that this is where she felt herself the most. So her parents weren't sure what to do because she's going crazy and it's not what they wanted her to do, right? So Paris thinks that because her parents didn't want their reputations to be ruined, they tried to send her to an outdoor wilderness program in Montana, where they had teens in the middle of nowhere building camps, working manual labor all day long. And it was basically like boot camp type thing, like a labor boot camp. Paris and another girl attempted to escape, and the staff caught them and beat the girls in front of everyone. Then she was sent to a couple of other schools in which she also tried to escape. So she tried to escape from a total of 3 facilities and programs. After the last one, she begged her parents not to send her to any more programs, and she promised she wouldn't go to any more clubs. And in 1997, her parents sent her to Provo Canyon School, where 2 security guards type people, like big, like strong guys, entered her bedroom on a school night while she was sleeping and basically took her into custody. She was screaming and asking for her parents to help her. And as she was being taken out of the house, her parents were standing in their bedroom door watching her and crying.
That is
But
so
traumatic.
awful.
Yeah.
And where before that happened, she's like, please don't make me go to another one.
Yeah.
And that's what you let have, like, that's what you let happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what her relationship is with her parents. I don't. But like, I don't know how I would ever forgive my parents for that.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
it's like you didn't even listen to me,
Yeah.
you
I
know?
begged
Like,
you.
right,
Mm-hmm.
right. And so then I'm sure this is like the beginning of the worst part, right? For her.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, had they just listened, and like gone a different route or tried something else, like she wouldn't be traumatized for the rest of her life.
Right.
So parents, pay attention to your kids and listen,
Right.
okay?
Try
Like,
something else. If they're begging you,
right,
try something else.
right. Like obviously they don't always know what's best, but it's like if they are begging you and have like
Mm-hmm.
that kind of reaction, listen, you
Right.
know? Like,
Well, and apparently, like her mom was even telling her sister and telling her, like the friends of the family, oh, she just went to school in London. She's just off to school in London. She's just doing, but no, she was sent to this freaking prison because she was going to parties. Like,
my gosh.
oh, anyways, so this is at this time when Paris enters PCS is when it was still under Charter Behavioral Health Systems ownership. So the second company it was under. Um,
Okay.
as she entered this facility, she was forced to submit to a pelvic exam. She was given faded sweatpants with the number 127, and she was only referred to by that number for the entire time at the school.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
A
During
pelvic exam at what age?
at 16.
That's awful.
And not even consensual. Like it's sexual assault.
For a normal adult female, like I don't think they even suggest you do that until you're like what, 21
I think it's like
or 19
18.
or maybe 19, 18. Yeah.
I feel like it's 18 for a pelvic exam. No, no, it's 21. You don't really need it until then.
Yeah,
Like
right.
for like pap smears.
Right. Yeah. So like what?
Yeah,
Like
and like it's for
what medical.
no medical reason.
Right. That's where I'm like every single person on that staff should be charged.
How is there not freaking charges on these people? I do not understand it.
Like every single one of them.
Yeah,
Even the janitors should be charged for not
because they know
speaking
what's
up.
going on. They
Mhm.
know exactly what's happening.
Oh my God.
So during Paris's time at PCS, she said that she would sit in a chair staring at a wall all day long. So similar to other stories. They would yell at them and hit them. And she said, quote, I feel like a lot of people who work there got off on torturing children and seeing them naked.
That's what it sounds like.
Right. She said she would randomly be forced into late night gynecological exams for no medically necessary reason. If
Late
any
night.
late night. And if any of the girls would resist or refuse the exam, they would threaten them with a sedative.
Oh my gosh.
Right. It is awful. These are teens.
Like this needs to be like in every headline. I
Right.
will I will rally the streets. I'm ready.
So everyone was prescribed pills. Like every single person at the school was prescribed pills, and they would make them feel numb and like a zombie. Same story. So the thing is like all these stories are the same.
Yeah.
And it's like, how
It's a
can
method.
hundreds of people have the same stories and have it not be true? How are they making up stories, right?
Right, right,
So she
right.
said that she remembered some kids were like completely gone. She's like, the lights were on, but no one was home. Like she was like, they were gone. And she said eventually that she found out a way to hide that she wasn't taking the medication that they were giving her. And then word
Mm.
got around with all the kids, and then a staff found a Kleenex with pills in it. And because of that, she was put in solitary confinement in that
Oh my
cinder block room.
gosh.
She said they would make people go in there without clothes for almost 20 hours at a time.
Without clothes.
Yeah.
In cinder block.
Paris was in PCS for 11 months. She said, the only thing that saved my sanity was thinking about what I wanted to do and who I wanted to become when I got out of there. She said leaving PCS at 18 years old, so she aged out, was one of the happiest moments of her life. Paris never told her parents about what happened at the school, and she mentioned she didn't trust her parents anymore because they sent her there after she begged them not to. So she instead used her anger and trauma as her drive to success.
I mean, how could you ever let them know how you're feeling ever again?
Because they
You know what I
wouldn't
mean?
listen.
They wouldn't listen, or they would somehow turn it around on her.
Right.
It's like I can only imagine how she had to like put up those walls,
Yeah.
like those emotional walls of being like, you don't get to know certain things
Yeah.
because I let you know before, and that's what happened.
Right.
So, wow.
She said, quote, I don't know if my nightmares will ever go away, but I do know that there's probably hundreds of thousands of kids who are going through the same thing right now. And maybe if I can help stop their nightmares, it will help me stop mine.
Aww.
This is Paris documentary shows Paris meeting up with fellow PCS survivors, which is definitely watch it.
Yeah.
It's just another glimpse into how different she is from her public persona, but she's sitting down and like confiding in these people who experience the same things, and she had to walk away at one time and say like, I'm not alone in this. As long as I felt alone in this, I'm not alone in this. And I think that's
Yeah.
kind of where she decided like, I have to do this because kids are experiencing this now. And like,
Yeah, because she just knows about that one location. I mean, she just experienced that
mhm,
one location having it be that bad.
yeah,
But yeah, I'm sure, thinking about how many other facilities are also getting away with it. And I
right.
have heard stories like on the and that's why we drink podcast.
Yeah,
There have been stories that they've covered of similar facilities that do like these torture treatments almost.
yeah. And they
Or like
did
brainwashing treatments. It's weird.
they did these the Breaking Code Silence campaign that she was a part of. So Paris Hilton was also a part of this campaign with other survivors. And they in the video, the documentary, it showed a group of the survivors making their posters. And the posters said what school they attended and the trauma that they received from the school with tape
Yeah.
over their mouth. And this woman that was, with her in this documentary, her name's Raina. She's one of the other survivors, and she said something so powerful to the group, and she said, quote, this isn't your shame. This is not her shame, hers or mine. It's their fucking shame. We've just been carrying it. Which is
Yeah,
so true that
that's absolutely true.
it's not it's not your fault. It's their fault. You've just had to carry this weight and it should be on them, which is why the movement is so important.
Right.
Another celebrity, Kat Von D, grew up in a conservative home. Do you know who Kat Von D is?
No.
She's a celebrity tattoo artist who's won like tattoo um competition shows, and she's super well known. She grew up as an angsty teen, right? She began tattooing her friends at 14 years old. So she
Wow.
just knew her calling so young. She dropped out of high school, and she was like one of those punk rock girls, right?
Right.
Well, her family didn't know what to do with her. And a family therapist suggested that she attend Provo Canyon School. So
Mm.
two staff members went into her room while she was sleeping, told her to get dressed and that they were leaving. They said that she shouldn't fight or they'd have to handcuff her. So she went willingly, obviously a mess, but they flew her to Salt Lake City. They put her in a car and blindfolded her.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, she arrived at PCS at 15 years old. A 15-year-old dealing with this or experiencing this like blows my mind.
I don't think a child should ever be blindfolded unless it's for a pinata.
Exactly. So when she got there at 15 years old, they did a strip search in front of a group of staff. They put her in sweats and sandals, shaved her head, and gave her a binder explaining where she was. She didn't know where she was going, why, or anything until they handed her that binder. The binder explained that her parents signed away their parental rights and sent her to this facility to rehabilitate troubled teens.
Oh my gosh.
The binder also said that there's a minimum of 3 weeks time spent at that facility, depending on behavior, that it could increase if necessary. So she tried to survive
Let me
by
guess. No one's gone out of there in 3 weeks.
very, very rarely. Very rarely. So she tried to survive by playing their rules so she could go home as soon as possible.
Yeah.
But she ended up being there for 6 months. She said they were definitely the most traumatic 6 months of my life. Kat said for most of the 6 months, she never really saw the light of day. The school didn't allow her to use the restroom alone. None of the bathrooms had doors. Her individual privacy was 100% gone. She also experienced having to stare at a wall for hours, which everyone has experienced, and witness other girls who were forced to do it for days. Days. And if the girls fell asleep or fell off their chair during their time staring at the wall, they'd get more time added to their sentence or treatment, or they were punished in another way. They had to ask to do anything. They had to ask before they coughed. They had to ask before they sneezed, moved, adjusted clothes, or anything, or else they'd be punished.
Wow.
She was drawing comics with another girl to pass the time, like they were just having simple fun drawing comics, and with another girl that she made friends with. And when the staff found her drawings, they added 3 months to her treatment.
Okay, wait, hold on. Let me just try to follow their stupid logic here. But they're given this binder that says, you're sent here because of behavioral issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fix your bad teenage ways.
Yeah.
She's drawing pictures, comics. Like she's
Mm-hmm.
having like innocent fun with friends.
Yeah.
How on earth is that like
Worth
bad
3 months.
behavior? Or even bad behavior at all?
I don't know.
You know what I mean? Like, unless the only thing I can think of is if they were like vulgar, awful pictures.
Violent, maybe.
Yeah, violent or like explicit in some way. Like, maybe. But like 3 months though
Right.
for a drawing
Right.
that hurts no one
But
except for it. Oh my gosh.
it gets so much worse though. Just wait.
So what year is this?
I don't remember the year she went.
Or where are we?
She
Yeah,
was
where
15. I think it was in the 90s.
Okay.
It was in the 90s for sure.
Gotcha.
Um, Around the same era as Paris Hilton, right?
Okay.
Um,
Probably same staff members, right?
yeah. So get this though. Kat Von D, her parents were scared of the path she was going with the tattoos. It was just the time where it was like satanic panic type thing where they're like, this is not okay. And so they basically give the school a list of things that their kids are doing that is not okay or against the rules or whatever. And so the school is trying to correct whatever behavior their parents are sending them with, right? So
Right.
the tattoo thing is one of the bigger ones.
Okay.
Well, when she gets there, counselors at the school tried to cure Kat of her self-expressive tattoo, I guess, addiction, whatever, um, by pulling her aside and telling her that she was HIV positive because she must have gotten it from her tattoos. And she went through that entire 6 months thinking that she was HIV positive. When she got out at 17 and 18, she realized, or she went and got retested, and she was negative for HIV.
Oh my goodness.
They were trying to use that as a scare tactic for her to stop getting tattoos and told her she was HIV positive, which as a kid, you're like, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
I can't. I can't. Like, this doesn't even sound real. It sounds like a freaking movie,
Right.
a script.
Exactly.
Like, I'm
So
just hoping that you're gonna end this story with like, and here's a list of people that are going to trial. But I'll let you continue.
okay, you might be disappointed. Okay,
Okay.
um, so they didn't even let people call their parents without being supervised. So they would call their parents, and if they started to say anything like about what's happening like that, or that she wants to come home or anything like that, the staff would disconnect the call and then call their parents back and say, "Oh, she's just trying to escape. We'll have her call you next week."
Are you serious?
Yeah. Like, "Oh, she's just saying that so she can leave. Like, don't worry. Everything's fine here."
Wow.
So they would disconnect her call, and
That's
then
scary.
that is so scary.
Imagine, and just imagine being that teenager, being like, I can't even
Like
like, can I
helpless.
talk code or something, you know? Like,
Right.
but how do you even get the code across?
Right. You'd have
Oh
to
my
have something
gosh.
decided at the like beforehand,
Like,
right?
yeah, like something as a kid or whatever. But like, that
Right.
is so scary.
I think it's a red flag if they don't let you talk to your parents freely. I think that
Yep.
is like, as a parent, if they won't let me talk to my kid
Mm-hmm.
without supervision, then
Yeah.
there's a problem. I don't need to be supervised. I, as a parent, don't need to be supervised. And I
Yeah.
give my kid permission to talk to me. So F you. Like, I would be so
I mean,
pissed.
I can only see why they'd want us to keep it supervised just out of like safety, you know? Like,
Yeah, but what are they going to tell their parents other than, I'm being abused? Come get me.
yeah, I mean,
I mean, even if it's not real, their parents should be like, I'm coming right now. And if
yeah.
anything, that builds trust between the parent and the child, right?
Well, I mean, it's just like when you go to put your kids in daycare or preschool, like usually you get like a little tour of the place, you know,
Right.
like this is where we have coloring time. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I want to know where we have timeout time too, you know, like show
Yeah.
me what you do
Right.
because
Well, now daycares have video streams that the parents can kind of check in whenever they want
that's
at
cool.
any time so
See,
that
that
you can
hasn't, yeah, that wasn't around when my kids were in daycare
me either.
5 years ago.
Right. But it's a thing now. Like I mean it's an option for
Yeah,
places now, which I think is amazing.
brilliant.
It's trust, right? Back and forth
Yep.
it's trust.
Oh, for sure.
Um but anyway, yeah, it's just bizarre that they ugh, pisses me off. Okay. So Kat Von D left PCS and went to a therapist where the therapist helped her process the experiences at the school. She was left with major PTSD and trauma, obviously.
Right.
She left PCS at, let's see. She actually, okay, so she entered PCS at 15 and she left at 16, which
Okay.
means that she did not know that she was HIV negative until she was 17 and 18. So she thought she was positive even longer.
Wow.
Um, so when she left PCS, she was entered into a different program in Santa Cruz. And that was much more laid back and like way less prison like, and it was more kind of what she was expecting going to
What
us,
maybe
right?
closer to what it should have been.
Yeah. And she said she was nervous to use the restroom with the door closed because she thought that they would send her back to Provo. She's like, I
Oh,
was scared to use the bathroom. I was scared to like be anywhere alone because I thought I was going to get in trouble. So
oh my
at this
gosh.
time, Kat began using alcohol to numb her pain and PTSD symptoms. And she says that she feels that Provo had a big part in her alcohol addiction, that she
Yeah.
later experienced alcoholism and drug addiction. And she said that with her experiences at PCS, that led her to those problems,
That makes
which
sense
she is
too.
now sober 15 or 16 years now. So congratulations on that.
Wow. Wow.
Um, she said that her parents did the best they could with the information they had at the time. There weren't reviews that they could read online like we were talking about. And or even like tools that you could Google like how do I handle my unruly teenager?
Yeah.
Like you really just had to kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
And so they literally had to rely on the brochure that they were given for the school and trust that it was reflecting what they were gonna experience, right? So
Right.
she's like, I don't really blame them because they didn't know. And then she said she also never talked to her parents about what happened because she didn't want to hurt them. And she didn't want to blame them for sending her there. And she realized that she also played a part in being the angsty teen and the runaway and that she
Mm,
had to make amends for her part and even the reason she was sent there. So,
wow. What a
um,
mental gymnastics I would have to take,
I
like
know.
to be like, I don't blame you, but damn,
Yeah,
like
like
if things could have been different
I know. And
somehow.
she was saying, like, why live in the past when we can't control what happened type of thing.
Yeah.
Like,
I
she's
mean,
like, I just want to kind of move past it and let the negativity out. And which is why she was talking about it. She's like, I just want it out so that I don't have to live in it anymore.
right. Yeah.
So in 2020, after Kat Von D saw Paris Hilton's This Is Paris documentary, she got on Instagram and shared her story, which I just talked about.
Hmm.
And you can tell she still has pain from her experience. You can see it on her face and in her eyes. I'll link it in our references on our website for our show notes. But Kat Von D said, quote, real therapy shouldn't require more therapy afterwards, which I'm
Yeah.
like, that's true. Like, you should not be getting more trauma from therapy.
Hmm.
Therapy is meant to heal or help
Hmm.
cope with and
Yes.
safely medicate. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's supposed to be a way to move on.
Progress.
Yeah,
Yeah.
progress. Right. So in 2020, Paris Hilton and a group of survivors with the Breaking Code Silence campaign protested to shut down Provo Canyon School for good. They held a rally outside of the school with posters and whatever about, shutting it down and saving the kids and all that
Hmm.
stuff. Provo Canyon School sent a statement to the Deseret News saying, or in August of 2020, saying the school originally opened in 1971, but was sold by its previous owner in the year 2000. They said, quote, we therefore cannot comment on the operations or patient experience prior to this time. The school statement said, that calling the school an intensive psychiatric residential treatment center for youth between the ages of 8 and 18 that have special and often complex mental health and emotional needs. They also said we offer innovative evidence based therapeutic interventions, academic instruction, and life skills training tailored to the needs of each of our students. Leadership and staff are highly committed to providing effective treatment, compassionate care, and a nurturing environment for the students and families we serve. Which I'm like, okay, but after 2000, when it was
Hmm.
sold,
Hmm.
there are hundreds of reports of
Hmm.
experiences that are similar to
Hmm.
before it was sold. So
Hmm.
it didn't change,
Like
clearly.
it's cute that you're trying to be like, I don't even know those guys.
I
But
know
it's like,
we can't say what happened before we were there.
right.
And then they were saying that they can't even say what happened during that time because it's patient privacy. It's like,
Okay, and hold on a second. They're just the owners, right?
yeah,
Just like we were saying before, the owners doesn't change the staff. So for them to be like, oh, well, the company's was a different owner. It's
right.
like that that shouldn't matter. Like it's your facility, it's your
Yeah.
staff.
Paris responded and said Provo Canyon School excuses their abusive behavior by saying they are now owned by a new company. Universal Health Services, you can't silence me, she says. Okay. In 2021, so the next year after their rally, Paris testified in front of Utah State Judiciary, Law Enforcement, and Criminal Justice Committee, urging members to pass regulatory reform of Utah's booming troubled teen industry. So I'm going to play you her testimony.
Okay.
At the beginning, she's talking about a woman who was one of the staff who was bragging about being the one who broke Paris Hilton, which is where the video starts.
Oh, I see.
Broke Paris Hilton. Violating confidentiality is not only unethical, but also a violation of HIPAA. This woman was employed by Universal Health Services for 20 years. She was let go this October, only after my documentary premiered. I tell my story not so that anyone feels bad for me, but to shine a light on the reality of what happened then and is still happening now. The people who work at, run, and fund these programs should be ashamed of themselves.
And put in prison.
How can people live with themselves knowing this abuse is happening? Right now in Utah, there are thousands of children experiencing abuse that do not have access to legal counsel, advocacy, or their family and friends, and who are counting on us to do the right thing. We, all of us, have the opportunity today to lead by example and make a difference in saving children's lives. I'm calling not only on the people in this room, but also elected leaders like Representative Scott, Senator Schumer, Speaker Pelosi, Vice President Harris, and President Biden, and everyone listening to my voice today to denounce child abuse. Utah has the highest percentage in the nation of children sent here from foster care. The juvenile justice system and Department of Special Education, they deserve to have proper treatment that is evidence-based and administered by trained staff and not leave with more issues than they came in with. Children are our future. No child deserves to be tortured and traumatized. Last April, a child in Michigan, Cornelius Fredericks, threw a piece of bread and as a result was violently restrained by numerous staff and died. How many more kids need to die for progress to be made? One thing is clear: youth and residential care are not protected by Utah's current laws. Imagine it being your child who's being subjected to physical, mental, psychological, and emotional abuse on a daily basis, or your child was left in a facility 67 days longer than medically necessary, even after a judge ordered his release. Or your child with intellectual disabilities who was forcibly injected with Haldol 17 times and restrained nearly 30 times in a 3-month period last year. This is a true story. It breaks my heart that this child told her case manager that she thought she would die in the facility after suffering such a severe beating in her sleep that she required facial x-rays and couldn't eat. These are just 2 out of millions of stories. These institutions have been preying on vulnerable children and parents for the past 70 years. That is generations of survivors who have had no recourse and no advocacy and have to live with that pain for their entire lives. Since my documentary premiered in September, survivors are finally sharing what they've experienced with the world. Children in these facilities have been even finding ways to reach out to Breaking Code Silence for help, despite being dismissed, discouraged, and threatened into silence. We must empower these children. We must listen, and we must respond accordingly. On October 9th, 2020, I organized the first survivor gathering in Provo, Utah, which brought together survivors and allies from all 50 states to stand in solidarity together.
Wow.
I know, right? So she was testifying to this committee, the goal of bill called SB 127, and 127 is symbolic of her number, right?
Right.
The goal of it was to put more government oversight on Utah's youth residential treatment centers. It would require the treatment centers to document instances of physical restraints and involuntary confinement and submit monthly reports to the Utah Office of Licensing. It would also ban chemical sedation and mechanical restraints unless authorized. Tim Marshall, a spokesperson for Universal Health Services, who now owns PCS, and he's an associate administrator of the school, he told BuzzFeed News that the school supports the Utah bill. He said the school eliminated the use of seclusion or isolation some time ago and does not use mechanical restraints, solitary confinement, or drugging as discipline. He said,
time ago,
yeah,
ever since the documentary came out, probably.
right, in 2020 when they fired that freaking staff worker.
Yeah.
He said, quote, "We are supportive of the additional transparency the legislation requires. As always, our singular goal is patient safety. As a matter of policy and procedure, we have always operated within the requirements of our reporting obligations." Within this hearing type thing, I don't know, it's a committee meeting. I don't know if it's considered a hearing. Anyways, a man named Jeff Netto, he's from Utah. He testified that he was 13 years old when he was first admitted into a series of youth centers. He did not attend PCS, but a nearby school called Heritage Schools. He said he was tied to a bed multiple times with a 5-point restraint system. 13 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. The first time he was tied to this bed was for 24 hours. The second time was for 3 days. The
24 hours. Okay. You haven't even gotten to the next one, but it's like, I can't even comprehend that.
Right. It's worse. Second time.
You just said 3 days.
Was for 3 days. The third time was for 7 days. The fourth time was for 7 days. And the last time was for 2 days. He said he wasn't allowed to use the bathroom and that the bed was covered in plastic sheets. So he was literally there laying and defecating on himself, urinating on himself for days.
Oh my gosh.
13 years old.
They are treating them worse than
prisoners. Yes. Worse than prisoners.
And they are children.
Yes.
Who just need love and guidance.
Yes. He was drugged with Thorazine, which is an antipsychotic for schizophrenia. Well, Jeff didn't have schizophrenia. He had ADHD. But they're pumping him full of antipsychotic drugs, right?
Yeah.
He was thrown into solitary confinement behind metal doors for days for talking back or fighting with other students. He said the longest he was in solitary was 13 years old for 2 months.
Wow.
During the time in solitary, depending on the staff member, they would sometimes come into your room and beat the crap out of you just because they could. And Jeff said that his parents paid $60,000 to be at this facility and they never knew about the abuse. Jeff is now a businessman in Draper, and he said, quote, "I survived, but I don't know anybody else who has from the place I went." He said many of the students that he went to that facility with are now homeless, in prison, or in a mental institution. So after hearing more survivors' stories, graphic stories of the mental and physical abuse on not only in Provo Canyon School, but in other facilities in the state, the committee passed the bill unanimously. They were baffled by how disgusting abuse of the children had persisted for decades inside these youth facilities without accountability. Utah Senator Mike McKell, in his closing remarks to lawmakers before turning time over to them before they voted, he said, "Today, we are going to reshape the industry. We are going to put guardrails with SB 127. But some lawmakers said the bill should be stronger than it was already. Like they needed to add more to it to make it like
solid.
That much more. So
loopholes.
So Senator Derek Kitchen, the Salt Lake City, so I don't know if it's like district of Salt Lake City, I don't know. He thanked Paris Hilton for shining a light on the issue. He said, quote, "We are going to take care of this." He pledged, but he questioned SB 127 would go if SB 127 would go far enough. Quote, "I don't know. Seems like we have more work to do," is what he said. Senator Luz Escamilla, District Salt Lake City, said, "We need to start somewhere, but it's not enough. We are so behind. all of the things we do to protect children, and this is happening in front of us, and we're not doing enough. It's really embarrassing. I'm so sorry. And then Senator Daniel Thatcher, it says R, West Valley City, so I don't know what the R stands for. I don't know. I should read things. Okay.
Maybe Republic and Democratic.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. Anyway,
politics.
Meh, who cares? We're all the same team with this one. Okay.
Yeah.
So
right.
Senator Daniel Thatcher said, I have so many questions. So he saw a video of a young man who was knocked out by a chair in this hearing. So it showed a video of like violence that was on camera, right? And in one of the facilities. And he said, quote, all of the physical abuse, how have there never been criminal charges? Which is what I've been saying. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Paris Hilton said the fight isn't over. This is just the first step. There's obviously more work to do, and I'm not going to stop until change happens. She's lobbying for regulations to span nationwide. Then on October 6, 2021, Utah Governor Spencer Cox held a ceremonial signing of Bill SB 127. Crap, I didn't put it in my notes, and I was going to, but in one of the podcasts I was listening to, the Salt Lake Tribune kind of hosts, it was saying they were saying that since this was in effect April 2021, right? So almost a year, 2 years have passed since this has gone into the system. But within a year that the podcast had been recorded, so it's a year, they could already tell that there had been improvements made, because the license people have investigators that just show up 4 times a year. They do not schedule, because before they had to schedule it and it was once a year. So during that time, obviously they're going to clean house and make sure it looks good. But they show up unannounced 4 times a year, and then they do a report. So that keeps them on their toes, and it keeps them checked, because they know that it could happen at any time.
Yeah.
Based on their reports so far in the past year, it has been better. I wouldn't say it's probably perfect, because if it's still the same staff, they have habits. And if it were me, I'd say you're all gone. We have to get new people.
I would say like a social worker needs to get in there and interview every single kid that's in there and be like, tell me about your experience here.
Yeah.
And like, let's write it down, or like,
honestly,
let's like, record it.
I mean, what's going to happen? They get new staff, which is probably impossible. To hear firsthand accounts of survivors, you can go to bcsnetwork.org, which is for Breaking Code Silence, or they have another site called breakingcodesilence.org. And breakingcodesilence.org has like a tab for resources for parents looking for information on schools. And then also information on how to see signs of abuse, so they can kind of like get help as parents, right?
Right.
And then to know which are the bad places.
Thank goodness that they're putting steps to like fix the problem. Like,
right.
I don't know. I feel like there still needs to be justice, but at least they're doing damage control a little bit.
Right. They're like trying to reset in a way. Paris Hilton had a podcast called Trapped in Treatment, which is really good, and you should listen to that. Paris Hilton also has a memoir that was released March 14th, which was 2 days ago as of us recording. I haven't read it yet, obviously, but it does detail some of these things as well.
Yeah, I think I might go get that.
Let's see. So I Googled, because I was like, what can parents do for troubled teens? Right. So I was like, help for troubled teens. And the first 10 search results showed up as academies or treatment centers. There wasn't like tips or therapy in your area or anything. The top results were facilities to send them. Yeah, to send them to. And that's ridiculous.
Think that's good.
But then like 10 links down, there was a WikiHow article, and WikiHow never fails me. And so I asked WikiHow how to help troubled teens, and I will give you some steps because there were 12 and that's going to take too long. So WikiHow tells us how to handle troubled teens. And though Katie and I do not have teens yet, this may come in handy down the road. So let's hear what they have to say.
Okay.
1, being a supportive role model by talking openly with your teen. Discuss your concerns in a calm and loving way. Be compassionate when listening to them. Respond. So when they either respond or don't respond, show compassion that they're either struggling to respond or that they're responding at all, right? Like, just be grateful that this conversation's happening, I guess. You could say things like, quote, I noticed a change in your behavior. Explain the behavior that's changing, and then say, I wanted to check in with you and see if you wanted to talk. I'm here for you and I'm ready to listen.
Love that.
Give examples of what you struggled with as a teen, with school, friends, or family. What did you do, and how would you do it differently now, knowing what you know? Be patient. Teens may not open up at first, but continue to try because it shows that you are a safe place if they need it. 2, be a reliable and calm support system. So be available, be cool and calm, and be willing to apologize if you make a mistake or react unfairly. 3 is to listen without judgment. So avoid distractions and make eye contact. Don't jump in and tell them what to do. It will make them shut down. Give them room to say what they want to say, even if it's ridiculous. Like if they're like, this girl looked at me this way and it hurt my feelings or whatever. Just listen. You don't even have to say a word.
Right.
Try not to minimize their concerns because their feelings are valid and important. So number 4 is to keep rules and boundaries. So you're not there to be their friend, their bestie or whatever, but you also don't want to be a helicopter parent. You got to find a good common ground or a middle ground. You have to be involved and supervise. Like, give them opportunities to be independent. And then when they break your trust, there have to be consequences.
Right.
A good idea is to get your teen involved in setting rules and like asking them, okay, if you do this, what's a fair consequence? Like what matches that action, right? So kind of give them an idea of like what makes sense as a consequence. Like, okay, you sneak out one night, well, that means you're like, do you think you should be grounded? Like be realistic. What do you think I should do, right? Okay.
But what if they give like a smart ass answer, like nothing? You know?
Well, in that
I
case,
was that teen.
yeah, I'd be like, well, if I were to choose.
Right. Like, oh, I get to pick, nothing will happen.
Well, then at that point, you're the mom and you say, well, that's not an option. There has to be a consequence for you breaking a rule because you live in my house and these are the rules I have. So, but a big thing it was saying is to not say like, I have lived on this earth longer than you, so I know more than you. I am better than you. Don't belittle them. Like you just say, these are my rules. As a family, these are our rules, even maybe bring them into it.
Is it belittling to say, who's the boss? Because that's what I tell my kids.
That's what I said too. So, you don't get to pick.
Right. Like who's the mom here?
Right.
Like you. I'm like, okay.
I wouldn't say it's belittling because I do it too.
The reality check.
Yeah. But like they gotta know who's boss, right? But this is more when they're getting independent. Right now, my kids are under my thumb.
This is me talking to them in the back seat.
Right. Do I have to pull over? Okay. Okay. Another really big thing is to spend time with them and make them a priority, because if you guys have a really strong relationship, they're more likely to come to you when there's something wrong, they're in danger, they need help, whatever.
Right.
Another thing is to encourage them to find a hobby to help them cope with pressures of school and friends and escape. That's not dangerous, right? What sports do you want to play? Do you want to play an instrument? Do you want to learn guitar? Do you want to take lessons in something? Do you, whatever it is, find a hobby that's an escape. Yeah.
Right.
But again, be interested and involved in what they're doing, because then you know if there's something going on even in the hobbies, right?
Right.
Okay. Teach them it's okay to ask for help and that you won't judge them if they need you. Like, I'm at a party, there's drinking, and they're getting into stuff and I don't feel safe. Go pick them up. Do not judge them. Thank you for calling me. I'm glad you trust me, type of thing.
Right.
Okay.
Glad you're that kid.
Right. There are resources. Like, that's the biggest thing. There are resources if it gets out of hand and you feel like you can't handle it. If you are scared of what your teen's doing and you can't rein it in and none of the other things are helping, maybe they have thoughts of suicide, self-harm, or harming others. The biggest thing is to get help immediately. If they're in immediate danger, obviously call 911. You can text suicide hotline at 988. Don't leave your teen alone if they are in crisis, panic attacks, or deep depressions. Do not leave them alone. Keep them with someone for their safety, because sometimes thoughts can take over, right?
Yeah, right.
Find a therapist or counselor that they can meet with regularly, and then get counseling for yourself as a parent. Because they can only see their therapist once a week, maybe, right?
Right.
And they're with you more than they're with their therapist. So you as a parent are going to need to find tools to deal with it, to be a support for them, and then also have support for yourself, because it's hard. Being a parent is hard.
Yeah.
So those are some things. And WikiHow, I feel like I know, like, I've been freaked out about having teenagers for a while now. And this kind of makes me feel like it's possible to be okay.
Yeah.
And it's good advice even for me now, is to just be involved and to be interested and to listen, and not like, don't yell at them if it's unnecessary. Like, what the heck do you think you're doing, kid? Like, you don't need to scream for them to hear your message.
Like, volume isn't necessary.
Right. Volume doesn't help anything but make them shut down. So yeah. Anyway.
Wow, good tips. That's all on WikiHow, huh?
WikiHow, yeah. And you know what? It didn't say to put them in a treatment center. Didn't say to ship them off. So
right. Of course, there are treatment centers that are actually helpful and like do things. But like, if you didn't know anything about it, that's like sending your kids off with some stranger, you know?
Right. As a mom, if I'm imagining, because I haven't dealt with teens yet, so I feel like I'm not in a position to discuss this, but as a mom, I can't imagine being comfortable with sending my kids away to have someone else discipline them, teach them how, I just feel like that's my responsibility. And there are teens who need extra. There are who need extra treatment and need help. But I feel like in that situation, there are
be a part of it.
Yeah, there are red flags and there are green flags. Can you talk to your kid regularly? Can you visit whenever you want? Like, are they free to call you if there's, if they're having a horrible day? Are they can they wear their own clothes? Can they, like, do they have activities that they're doing? Are they
because these poor kids, like, they might be acting out, but they still need their mom and dad. You know, like, they still need that parental comfort and guidance.
Yeah. But like, when you don't have the tools, I can imagine feeling so helpless. Like, I don't know what else to do. And these people seem to have answers, and you don't have any other information other than hey, we have answers.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll do what you can't.
Mm-hmm.
So as a parent, I can see why that would be really, really hard to know what is true, what,
Yeah.
but a lot of these kids have said I didn't tell my parents. But
Right.
it's because they
Ugh.
didn't trust you, because you sent them away.
Mm-hmm. That's how they got there in the first place.
Yeah.
You know? Oh, and that's so sad, you know? That's sad all around because I'm sure
Yeah.
the parents didn't want that for their kid.
Oh,
Ultimately.
right.
Like,
Right.
that's not what they wanted.
And if they knew, they would have intervened if they knew.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like the behavior that the staff, what the staff did, they put it on everybody else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The
Being
parents sent you here, and
Mhm.
you're the one who's the troubled teen. I'm clear of this. And
Yeah,
guess what? They got
exactly.
away with it.
Right.
They got away with it. There's no charges to anyone who has hurt any of these kids.
But there needs to be
0
an
charges.
investigation and they need to bring on the charges. Like, or is
I
it too
feel
late?
I feel like there needs to be names.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
Like,
know.
what doctor? Which doctor approved and signed the papers?
I bet
Start
a
with him.
lot of it is that
Her.
it's I mean, it's a witness testimony. It's not, there's hard evidence. Like now they have cameras.
Yeah.
But like back in the 90s, what are they gonna do? Okay, this old lady freaking gave me drugs when I didn't need them.
Right. Like, how could they prove it now?
How could they prove it, and how could they, without a reasonable doubt, charge these people? You know what I mean?
Yeah. But maybe they could if there's an investigation. You know,
But I feel like if
maybe
anything,
if there's
medical
journals.
licenses should be taken away. Like you should
Yeah.
not be in medicine ever again.
Right. Yep.
Something has to happen. They need some kind of consequence.
I agree.
It makes me
I'm
sick.
upset. I'm really upset.
Yeah.
About this.
Yeah, me too.
All right.
Okay.
Well, let me tell you my story.
Okay.
The people watching this are going to be like, what just happened? Because we just changed clothes and everything.
We had an accident.
Oops. A spill.
Yeah.
We spilled into another day.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're talking about the haunted Imperial Hotel.
I don't even know what that is.
Okay, well, this story takes us to a haunted hotel on 221 Main Street in Park City.
Park City.
Park City.
Ooh.
Did you ever think that I would cover a Park City story?
No, it seems Park City is like where all the snowboarding stuff is, all the
like
rich people. Sundance
Right.
Film Festival's
Celebrities.
there. Yeah, so that's like the last place I thought you'd cover because it's just so uppity and like it almost feels so new because I know that it's not new, but like you go there and then there's these huge like resorts and whatever in the
Like,
canyon.
top of the line stuff.
Yeah,
Everywhere.
so it does
Luxury.
feel like ghosts don't go there. So
like this place is way too classy.
Yeah. Ghosts are not a part of the program in this place.
But
So
then again, there is the Alta Club, which is pretty fancy. So
I don't know. Park City just feels like a whole nother level to me. Like,
yeah.
isn't that where Post Malone lives?
I think so. Or wait. No, I think he lives in Cottonwood Heights.
No shit.
I think he does. And I think I've heard he lives in Cottonwood Heights, and there's a rumor he has property in Erta. Like right here. Like he's seen
really?
in Tooele all the time. Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you doing?
What is he doing in Tooele?
Yeah, of all places.
Of all places.
Like,
So,
what is happening?
yeah, so there's rumor that he has property in Erta. like four-wheeling property or something.
Oh, that's
So,
cool.
or like
Sweet.
maybe animals, I don't know, but
He has a
yeah.
little homestead over there, chickens and
Yeah,
goats.
I bet he does. Like, there's actually some really, really nice houses in Nerda, like mansions on farms.
Oh, wow.
So maybe that's one of
Cool.
his.
Maybe.
Anyway, okay.
Okay. Sorry.
All right. No, you're good. Okay. So the Imperial Hotel is on the National Register of Historic Places, and it's a frequent stop for the Park City ghost tours. According to TripAdvisor, they were once ranked the second best ghost tour in the United States. And someone commented, I don't know if it was a review or just a Facebook comment, but they said that ghost tour is on par with the one in Salem.
Salem,
Massachusetts.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
What?
Right.
I thought you said
It's
Salem, Utah. I was like, I don't know anything about
sorry. No.
that.
I mean like when people, so she said something about like, I went to the one in Salem, or I have been to the one in Salem a couple times or something like that. And then she's like, but this one is definitely on par with that. Like,
Wow.
it's really good.
What?
So, yeah, they're just not as well known, I guess, because I hadn't heard of them until this story.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. From what I found, the tour is every night at 8:00 p.m.
Every night.
Every night.
Wow.
At 8 p.m. And the guides will take you through Main Street, telling you the stories about the buildings and things, both historical and paranormal. So the guides will also dress in Western style clothing. So they try to really take you back in time and be like, this is what it used to be. If you go, it runs about 75 minutes, and it's $20 for adults and $10 for kids that are 16 and younger.
Where are we doing that?
I know. I'm like, that's
$20 is way cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to like,
it's far away. Maybe they have a hard time because it's so far, you know.
But like $20 compared to like, well, I guess it's not an investigation. It's just a tour.
Right.
Because like investigations are pretty expensive.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind. But yeah, that's really, really affordable.
Something that we could definitely do.
Something I feel like we could maybe afford.
Right. So yeah, you can find more about the ghost tour at parkcityghosttours.com. So yeah, this is okay. So I got a lot of my information from that website because they have their story, not all of their stories, but they have like the meat of their stories on the website. So there's going to be other stories that I tell maybe on a different day, but I just zeroed in on the Imperial Hotel. So yeah. So our story begins a long, long time ago, before Park City became the snow resort that it is, snow sport wonderland that it is. Before all that, it was a rough and tough town, mainly populated with miners and prostitutes. Basically filled with gambling and saloons and all that.
It was the party life even back in the day.
Exactly. Park City might seem like it's kind of in a random spot on the Wasatch Mountains, because like you go into the canyon and you're like, oh, here's Park City, and it's like, why did this town even choose this spot?
Right.
Well, the reason why is because back in the 1860s, way back when Brigham Young and the Mormon settlers came, well, I guess that was a little bit before that, but back in the 1860s, back when Brigham Young and all of his people were here, the troops that came from California during the whole Buchanan's blunder issue, when they're like worried about the Mormons uprising and stuff.
Yeah.
The troops from California came to Utah and made like a little like camp right where Park City is. And while they were there, they found a vein of precious metals and started digging.
Oh.
They found gold, silver, lead, zinc, and ore. And by the 1870s, the first boarding house was established for miners, which was a collection of tents and shanties. And by the 1880s, the population grew in town, as did the mine, because by that time, over 1,000 miles worth of mining tunnels went through the city.
Mm.
So it really was just a bunch of miners there. Like it
Right.
wasn't a lot of families.
Okay.
Before the turn of the 19th century, miners in Park City were forced to live in boarding houses near the mines if they weren't married or if they didn't have any family or friends to live with. It was like a weird like requirement that they had to live in a certain boarding house.
That's weird, but okay.
Yeah. The mine owners were even able to force their workers to do business exclusively at the shops that they owned in town.
So you could only shop at the places that that's stupid.
Yeah. So around March 30th of 1901, the boarding house law was passed, and that made it so that mine owners didn't have as much control over the miners when it came to what they could and couldn't do outside of the mine.
Mm-hmm.
What was included in that law was that the consequence for an employer to intimidate or force an employee to board at any particular boarding house or do business at any particular store, that employer could be charged with a misdemeanor. And that still stands today. So
interesting.
Yeah. The law passed in 1901, and by 1904, the living conditions in Park City had drastically improved, especially for the miners. So the old boarding houses near the mines were torn down, and new ones were built closer to town and had better accommodations for single miners. Today, like I said, the old boarding houses near the mines have all been torn down, but new ones were built, and this building, the Imperial Hotel, is now one of the only 4 remaining boarding houses from that era.
Oh wow.
So, like, they built new ones, and out of those new ones, the Imperial Hotel is one of the only ones still standing.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
It was originally called the Bogan Boarding House, and it was owned by John and Anna Bogan. And John was a miner that worked at the Alta mine and the Dry Fork mine. The boarding house was built in 1904 and served as a boarding house for single miners only. John Bogan passed away shortly after in 1907 at the age of 62, but Anna kept ownership of the boarding house until it was sold to the Stevens brothers in September of 1916. And the Stevens brothers, they were wealthy people who owned other shops around town, like a bakery in town, a cigar shop, a candy shop, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
The goods.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what they did with the building while the Stevens brothers owned it. Like right after they bought it in 1916, but in 1918, just 2 years after the Stevens brothers gained ownership, the Spanish flu pandemic made its way to Utah, and there was such an overabundance of patients and emergency needs that they ended up using the hospital rooms as hotel rooms.
Oh, okay.
There's not a lot of documentation on this part of the history, but at some point the Stevens brothers ended up giving back the property to the Bogan family. And we only know this because of an ad that was made in 1921 that showed that the Bogan family had put the property up for sale. So like there's no paperwork really like to go back and like say like how the ownership
how it went back.
Yeah, but there is at least an ad in the paper that shows that the Bogan family was selling it
Again.
So yeah, it's like we don't know what really happened, but it happened.
Okay.
At some point between 1925 and 1937, the property gained ownership by someone named Bernard Lazaro, and people just called him Barney. But by this time, it was at the height of the Prohibition era, and one day in May of 1930, the anti-vice police squad raided the hotel, and according to a paper in the Park Record, the police stumbled upon over 300 gallons of wine in the basement. And I did some digging, and the only fun fact I could find about that is that they were making the wine out of plums. So
maybe it was good.
To know. Yeah, might have been. One of the tanks was so heavy that it couldn't be lifted outside, so the police had to siphon the wine and let it pour out into the gutter outside. Isn't that
What a
sad?
waste.
I know.
You know they drank some though.
They probably did. Anyway.
Can't let all this go to waste.
Right. Anyway, so
that's funny.
Around the year of 1940, Ramon Sanchez purchased the property and spent about $9,500 in the purchase and renovation of the building. Just as it was up and running again, though, a fire destroyed the upper floors of the hotel and caused $3,000 worth of damage, causing the entire original roof to be replaced. During the 1960s, David Chaplin and Gordon Despain converted the hotel into an apartment complex and it served as the home to many skiing enthusiasts, because around that time is when snow sports had boomed in Utah.
Yeah. Okay.
The owners nicknamed the apartments as the Impossible Hotel, and by the early 1970s, it had completely fallen into disrepair and ended up being condemned by the city.
Wow.
So let me send you a picture of what this looks like back in the day.
Okay.
Then I'm going to send you a picture later about what it looks like now.
Okay. Oh, so was it called the Impossible Hotel because it was so run down?
I don't know why, but they just nicknamed it that. Sadly, a lot of the historical furniture and hardware from inside the building was sold in a garage sale shortly after it was condemned by the city. So we don't have a lot of the original stuff because it just went away. A few years later, it was reopened and became a hotel again, and stayed a hotel until 2006. And by the fall of 2015, the building was again repurposed and renamed as the River Horse Provisions, which is luxury dining, and is owned by Seth Adams, who's the chef and co-owner of River Horse.
So it's a restaurant now.
It was. So,
okay.
Let me show you what it looks like now, though. It's gonna blow your socks off.
Let's see it. Ooh.
I know, pretty.
That looks so much nicer than the other one.
Right, it's like Chip and Joanna Gaines got to it.
Yeah, for real though. But like it kept the integrity of like what the design was.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Like the bones are still there, you know?
Yeah, that looks really nice.
Yeah, so it was a luxury dining place called River Horse Provisions. And they eventually relocated to another building on Main Street. And I could not figure out the ownership of the building right now, like who owns it, what's happening with it, other than I found a Zillow listing, and it says that it was converted into a single family home.
Oh, wow.
And listed for sale in 2019, but the listing was removed in 2021. So I don't know. It might be a VR, like a Verbo thing.
Oh, VRBO thing.
Yeah, or like what is it called? An Airbnb.
Yeah.
Possibly.
That was really nice.
Yeah. So I sent April the Zillow listing so you can like see the interior, and it's very modern, very fancy, very chic.
Very, very fancy.
Right.
Other people are like, this is what my house looks like, and we're like, whoa.
I know, right? We're like, this is so nice, and it's like standard.
Yeah. That view though, I mean,
yeah, right?
I know it's just a bunch of houses on a snowy hill, but I still think it's nice. Looking.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the paranormal.
Okay.
So like I said before, there's currently a Park City ghost tour, And one of their main stops is the historically known Imperial Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
There is one very popular story that is told on the ghost tour that I thought I can't go without sharing. It's like the main story.
Right.
So here's how it goes. Lizzy was married to a man who was a banker with a gambling addiction. This was back in the day. Think Western times, okay?
Okay.
As a result of his addiction, they struggled to pay rent and afford their groceries. At the time they were struggling financially is when Lizzy heard from her coworkers that they were involved in an underground prostitution ring to get extra money. Even though prostitution was illegal at the time, Lizzy decided that it was still worth joining to get that extra cash. So months go by, and Lizzy is able to make enough money to get their finances back in order, and on paper, things were improving. Except Lizzy's husband ends up being suspicious of how suddenly their bills are being paid and how the cabinets were suddenly filled with food, even though his habits were continuing.
Right.
So he decided to one day follow her to work. Lizzy worked at a grocery store delivering, and I guess she would just deliver groceries to people, which I'm like, that's interesting.
That happened back in the day, huh?
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Anyway, so he watched her go into the grocery store, get groceries, leave the store, and then take the groceries to a hotel, the Imperial Hotel. She goes inside, and he sits and waits for her. But she's in there for a very long time. So he goes in, to see if he can find her, to see what's up. He goes in and he starts yelling for her name, just saying, Lizzy,
Yeah.
She's not coming out. Well, then he gets mad and he's like, she's probably cheating on me. Like, he starts to think this, like, she's probably in one of these rooms because if she's not out here, where is she?
Right.
So he starts really yelling for her. One man who was a miner who worked the night shift and was sleeping during the day, he popped his head out of one of the doors and yelled back for him to keep it down because he's trying to sleep.
Yeah.
Well, the banker, he raises up his gun that he had, his pistol, and shoots the guy in the head because he assumes that she's in there with him.
Oh.
So he goes into that room, doesn't find her in there. Then he makes his way from room to room, searching for Lizzy. Then he gets to room 8, where when he opens the door, he finds Lizzy in bed with another man. And he raises his gun again and shoots them both. But rumor has it, he shoots Lizzy in the stomach. And to this day, when you see her ghost, you only see her upper half. For some reason.
Because it split her right in two.
I know, it's just like, why? Like, why
would that be the result?
The
It's
reason.
like,
yeah.
Well, now my ghost is half a person because he shot me in the stomach.
Right. Exactly what I was thinking. I'm like, that, like, her as a ghost is probably thinking, like, I would have legs if it weren't for you.
Yeah.
You know?
How am I supposed to walk around without him?
Yeah. Like, you ruined my chances of ever being able to ski.
As a ghost.
As a ghost. Okay, so.
Funny.
Where am I?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So
now,
people see her.
Yeah. So now the most active and popular ghost on the tour is Lizzy. People often see her in photographs, and she's often seen looking out the windows. I found a post on the Utah Haunted History Facebook page that had a photo that was taken on the tour, and I guess they sent it to the people of the tour, and they replied and confirmed that it's Lizzy.
Whoa.
So let me show you that.
I get to see it? Oh,
yeah.
That's exciting.
Hold on.
I'm ready.
Don't get too excited.
Oh, okay.
Because it's one of those where you're like, You can kind of see a face, like in like the banister.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And
Wow.
this was posted by someone named Rebecca, and I'll see if I can share this on our Instagram. But yeah.
Wow.
And they confirmed it's Lizzy, so who knows? But
I mean, like I see it, but like also I don't know.
it could be something else, you know?
It could, yeah, it could totally be something like inside the house that's
Yeah.
just showing through.
Like it's not so clear that you're like,
And how do
yeah,
they
of
know it's
course.
her? Like, do they have a picture of her?
Maybe. They might. I didn't see
Interesting.
anything on the website, but some people who have stayed at the hotel said that they've had strange experiences, especially with electronics, like lights turning on and off or flickering, TVs turning on and off by themselves, radios turning on and off by themselves, things like that. And also hearing unexplainable noises throughout the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone who has seen anything, as far as an apparition goes, has always described it as being some sort of female spirit. Um, the energy has been described as having not a bad energy, but like an old, thick energy, which I'm like, same.
Yes, my energy is also old and thick.
Right? Not just that, I'm just old and thick, okay?
That's funny.
Someone on Facebook named Rocky M told a story about when they were at the hotel taking pictures a few years ago. They were inside the hotel when they heard an unexplainable noise and heard a female voice whisper in their ear
Ugh.
when they were totally alone. And somewhat recently, they were at the hotel taking pictures again for a Verbo listing. That's why I think it might be like some sort of vacation stay place.
Mm.
Um, so they were there taking pictures for a listing, and they said that they were a bit nervous to go back because of their last experience there, of like hearing the noises and stuff.
Yeah.
So this time they decided to wear headphones just in case.
Yeah.
And when they were in one of the bathrooms taking pictures, they felt a sharp scratch on one of their sides and just kind of ignored it for a second, but then felt another scratch on their sides. So then they left the bathroom to go like look. Or they didn't leave the bathroom. Sorry. They looked in the mirror in the bathroom, you know, at their
Yeah.
scratches, and they found two scratches on their back that made a V shape,
Wow.
and they have a picture of it.
Whoa.
See?
Wow. That's scary. To get
Right?
scratches, that I would never go back.
Yeah, because I feel like that would be like a warning of like you better not next
Right?
time. You know,
Yeah.
like you've been warned. I don't know. That's scary.
That is very scary.
So room 8 is where Lizzy was killed, but now the place has been completely renovated and remodeled. So
Mm-hmm.
now room 8 is the kitchen
Oh, okay.
above. A lot of people have said that that's by far the creepiest room in the hotel, and it has the most activity. It said that she apparently likes to flirt with men, especially with ones with beards. Um,
They look
during the
like a minor, that's why.
Yeah, exactly. During the Park City Ghost Tour, people have said that they have seen strange things all over Park City, though, like all over the tour. It's not just the hotel. People have seen a lot of faces in the windows of different shops around Main Street. Um, and also, just from the outside of the hotel, people have seen like flashing lights coming from inside,
Huh.
unexplainable flashing lights. There are a lot more stories that come out of this ghost story, like I said, so I highly recommend you do it if you're interested. And I plan to cover some of those stories in the future, so we'll see. But
Yeah.
that's the story of the haunted Imperial Hotel in Park City.
Wow. That is really
That's it.
cool. Like I would love I always say this. I say this every time. I bet we could do a whole compilation. But I would love to go on this tour.
Yeah.
$20 is not too bad, but I wish they'd let you do like a investigation at the same time, but I guess it's like a private residence now.
Unless we should look it up on like Airbnb or something.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, and I never, like I was saying, I never thought you'd ever do anything in Park City because you just don't see Park City as a ghost town, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's mainly that main street that's haunted.
Mm.
There could be more. I do know that there's also a mine shaft that's haunted.
Oh,
In that area, a chapel that's haunted, and then like just different shops around town. Like there was like a soup kitchen that was like, oh my gosh, something happened, and they're like neighbors of the hotel. So
oh, interesting.
like it's that whole street, which I'm like, how have I not heard of this? It's so crazy.
I'm still looking at this picture though. Um, like I struggle to see faces sometimes, and I do see it, but I also I worry about saying like, oh my gosh, it's a picture of a ghost when it could be something else. Like
Yeah,
I'm like trying not to be a skeptic, but
that's why I was like, don't be too excited because
I know.
it's not it's not so far off that you'd be like, that is not a ghost, you know?
Right.
But it's not so,
It's not super like definitive. Like if for
yeah.
some reason I feel like if it was above the banister thing,
Mhm.
I probably would believe it more, but where it's in between,
Yeah, same.
it
Because you don't
feels
see what's behind the banister, you know, like those
right.
lines. Like that, I feel like that would give you more detail.
Right. Yeah. I'm with you. Crazy.
Yeah, but it makes me want to like just go on the tour and they did say on their website like they encourage people to take as many pictures as you can and then go through them and send them in. Like they really hope to find more evidence of.
So do they have on their site like people's pictures and stuff?
They do have some pictures on their website, and when I say some, I mean like three.
Oh,
But there's one where like it shows like a ton of orbs in the picture, but they're like out on the street. So
oh, interesting.
on this next one I'm gonna send you. Let me like read you what is on their website because it's kind of interesting
Okay.
about this next one I sent you. It says, here's another interesting photo showing a phantasm hovering above the Park City Ghost Tour group. This was an especially interesting tour because there was a girl on the tour who could see these phantasms. Phantasms? I don't know. With her naked eye. She was pointing out these vapors that no one else could see, but they were visible in photographs.
Hmm.
There's kind of like orbs behind it too.
Yeah, I mean, like I felt like you could explain away that smoky looking thing.
You think?
I mean, the only reason I say that is just because I'm like, the skeptic in me says this could be photoshopped.
Hmm.
But the orbs, I think, are more, I don't know. I think it's just because you don't really see those kinds of things in pictures very often. So it's like shocking to see one. I
Right.
guess the orbs I feel like are more common. And so I feel like I can say, okay, an orb tells me more than this smoky figure.
Right. Yeah. I know
I
what you're
don't know,
saying.
but that's just because I'm like, what are the chances, really? You know,
Right.
like,
This
could
is
it be them like smoking? I don't know. Because
right. Like yeah, like someone like blowing like their breath into the air or something.
yeah,
This one, the caption was, one of the most historic homes investigated by Park City ghost tour teams is seen here. Considered by many locals to be the most haunted house in Park City. In this photo, a figure can be clearly seen standing in the window on the second floor. Submitted by customer J. Perry. The figure appears to be a woman wearing an old-fashioned dress.
I see the silhouette, but I don't see the dress detail.
Not dress detail, but I just see the silhouette of the dress where it's like kind of like big poofy shoulders and like a slim waist, and then it kind of like goes out. It's like an A line.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. That's crazy.
But then again, like if it's a haunted house known to be the most haunted and they know there's a ghost tour, like who's to say they didn't set up like a
silhouette
cardboard cutout and then put like a lamp behind it.
Yeah.
That's on a timer to turn on and off or something. Because it's like,
That's true.
Where's that light coming from behind it?
Right.
So that's what it looks like to me, that there's a light behind. But maybe there's just a light on. I don't know. So yeah, that's.
Yeah, it's like I try not to be too skeptical because these things are so like unknown and exciting and stuff, but sometimes I'm like, okay, but I need hard evidence. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Cold stone facts.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for, because otherwise it feels like we're just looking for there to be something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like it's a stretch.
Well, yeah, because you can like hear people's stories all the time, but like I feel like it just is stories until you experience it, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
So be so cool. But that's because I want like that hard evidence, and I feel like if I'm not gonna get something like someone's picture that like shows me a person that you can see clearly, which is not likely to happen anyways, but like anyway, so my point is that I feel like if I were to experience it firsthand, it would feel more like evidence to me than
if someone told you about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's just ghost stories, which is so cool in itself, but like I just want to be spooked. I say that and then we actually go and do something and I'm like, nah.
Yeah. Like,
don't want to do
that, but then it wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I don't want to do that again, so anyways.
Well, thanks everybody for listening to another episode of Haunt and Cold Podcast. Come back every other Sunday for a new episode. And we have On Deck at Dusk on the 1st of every month.
And for exclusive content, you could go to Patreon, www.patreon.com/haunt and cold. Is that right?
Yep.
Ah.
Yeah.
You could do that.
You could do that. Make sure to follow and rate our podcast, like on Spotify, Apple Podcast, wherever you're listening, rate it.
Yeah, it helps us.
Good ratings.
Yeah, it helps us a lot. It helps our egos. It helps us know that we should keep doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Man, we're good at this. Anyway.
Share this with your friends and family. Let them know what you're listening to and that it's us. And that we're awesome. Spread the word.
Follow, like, share, listen. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, cool. Okay, bye.
Bye.